Welcome back to the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. This podcast is designed for any ageless athlete who's looking to optimize their health. We feature tons of different guests from the nutrition, wellness, and fitness world. So if you are into that type of content and want to be the best version of yourself, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. In today's episode, my special guest is CrossFit 353 owner, Peter Burke. Hailing from Dublin, Ireland, Peter is an expert in fitness in the group setting, and his gym, CrossFit 353, is a beacon for fitness, wellness, and longevity in the great country of Ireland. They do things a little bit differently at CrossFit 353, using GPP, General Preparedness Training, to create the best version of you. In today's discussion, we cover exactly what makes CrossFit 353 different, what CrossFit Games is versus a CrossFit class, what a first class experience might look like at CrossFit 353, the current state of CrossFit in a global sense, and so much more. Again, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, review, share it with a friend, and enjoy this episode of the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast featuring Peter Burke. Peter, where does this podcast find you?
Sean, great to hear from you. I am in Dublin in Ireland, where the summer has ground to a resounding halt. It is wet and cold, which was our summer over here. But no, we're back in action. The gyms are open maybe 2 months at this stage. So just delighted to be back to work.
Unbelievable. So I imagine that there's been some changes since the beginning of this whole madness in the world. Without having to, dive into those traumas, in what ways have you improved as a coach, as a business owner, et cetera?
Yeah, I guess consolidation is probably the biggest one. For a very brief background, I know you, my folks have a place in Delray, which we've been coming over to for the better part of 10 years. So I got to know you through CrossFit Delray Beach. I run an affiliate here in Ireland. Just before the pandemic, we expanded to a second location. Things were going really, really well. We had some conversations around that when I was in Florida. And through the pandemic, we lost our original gym, which was the cash cow in the business. We had just opened a brand new one in a part of town that is very dependent on offices. All the offices are closed. We went from a staff of 10 plus down to 2 or 3. So the pandemic was really, really tough. But what we've been doing is effectively starting anew. We're 8 years in and we're basically like a new business. We've taken the learnings, we've restarted again and improved all our systems. So even something as simple as we were with Zen Planner. I'm not sure if you've Zen Planner. Oh, yeah, sure. You're at Delray Beach with Zen Planner.
Yes, we were.
We were with Zen Planner for 6 years. So a lot of that, we redid our website. We moved to Wodify. We've done a lot of foundational work in the anticipation of when the economy opens up here, we are ready to scale fast. So I guess that's the big piece for us. And when we haven't been so busy, we've been able to invest a lot of time in learning and development, focusing on our coaching, our programming, getting all our own processes in the prayer that business comes back fast.
And how are all of those things going to make it a better and more meaningful experience for those who come to the gym?
Yeah, so I used to listen to a lot of Barbell Shrugged back in the day, Mike Bledsoe and the guys, and they talk about, a 5 out of 5 experience or a 7 out of 5 experience, and what does it look like in the Four Seasons or the Intercontinental, And when we're charging a premium, when you've got your 24-hour fitness down the road charging $20, how do we differentiate ourselves? And everything from the welcome email, the first impression on the website, the greeting from the coach, the automated feedback, all of our processes have to be 5-star plus if we're going to charge and retain at a premium price. So we were doing elements of that in the past, and because we were somewhat successful and we were busy and we were taking in some money, maybe we missed some of those bits. But when we haven't been so busy coaching crazy in a class and customers, we've been able to dive into the different portions of the business and try and firm up the areas where we may have been lacking previously or glossed over because there was some money coming in the door.
This is now a post-COVID world, and I think that with Zoom classes and variations in lifestyle, a lot of people working from home now. And then obviously the perception of health in general. I think it was a big wake up call for a lot of people. How do you take all that information and now create a CrossFit 2.0 when it comes to CrossFit 353?
I think the pandemic was a wake up call for a lot of us. Businesses with a poor balance sheet or poorly formatted businesses may have ambled on had the pandemic never hit, and maybe would have withered away in 3 to 5 years. But I think it really expedited and exacerbated the cracks in a lot of business models. And we experienced, you and I have discussed it previously. We've experienced some of those things. Now we've survived, thank God. But I think CrossFit 2.0 post COVID has done some things that probably needed to happen anyway around cleanliness, around sanitization, around maintenance, around I firmly believe the days of a garage gym are gone. If the floor is dirty or if there's sweat or blood on the wall, dog hair on the floor, I firmly believe those days are behind us. And you can't get away with charging a premium just because your head coach has been to the games, your head coach has huge snatch. We are very, very strong on GPP here, and a lot of our clients may not know who the games athletes are. So they don't care if you've got Rich Froning in the corner snatching 300 pounds. They want to be looked after. They want to have a premium experience. And if you're charging a premium, we got to deliver that. So in short, I know I'm waffling a bit. In short, I think it's, again, refined our service offering and really pushed us to dial in on our value proposition and value delivery to the customer.
What kind of competition is in your area right now? In as far as individualized or small group fitness, and by individualized, like personal training or semi-private personal training, and then in addition to that, other, quote unquote CrossFit knockoffs.
Yeah. So I think what happened was during the pandemic, a lot of people said, I don't fancy the grind here. I'm just going to jump online. So I'm going to leave the overheads behind. I'm going to de-risk my life and jump online as a PT. And I think a lot of people did that, which is fine. But I think it's very, very difficult to run a comprehensive training program in a back garden with one dumbbell or with a single kettlebell. You can absolutely do it when needs must and get by, but I think sometimes what happened was, a lot of people jumped into this space. But if you and I are online PTs, Sean, and we're coaching somebody here in Dublin, the geography doesn't make a difference. So why would I stay local with my online PT or my PT when I could go around the world and find the best practice for me? So we don't really get much competition from online. I think people are spending, offices aren't open here yet. So a lot of people are still working from home. They're spending 6 to 10 hours a day on screens like this. The last thing they want to do, from our experience, from what we've seen, if there's an alternative, is do your fitness on screen. So whether that's somebody turns up to their house, whether they go out to meet somebody else, whether they can get a little bit of social by going to a gym, I think that's really our unique selling point. And if we're safe, if we're compliant with the health regulations, if people feel comfortable and they're having fun, it's very difficult for them to say, no, I didn't enjoy that. I prefer my living room or my back garden,
So physical in-person studios and classes around you, are there a ton open right now?
Yeah, so everybody's back open.
Yep.
Depending on the location of where you're based, like the suburban ones are doing very, very well. So the guys on the outside of the city with a strong residential base and surrounding, like similar to Delray Beach, I imagine are doing very, very well because everyone's at home, everyone is time rich, they're money rich as well, and they need to get out of the house and they want to feel good about themselves. And unfortunately, Dublin is not like Florida, where probably for 8 or 9 months of the year, the weather isn't conducive to training outdoors in favorable climate. So if you're in any way familiar with a CrossFit or what you get from that, I think the residential ones in the suburbs are doing very well. The ones in the city, again are waiting for the offices to come back.
Got it.
And that's an ebb and flow. When the offices are full, these people are earning good money. The hope is that there'll be more demand for the central ones.
So if someone is hesitant right now of getting back into the gym, how can you address those concerns, and what is the biggest selling point right now as to why people really should be, you know what, I understand that you have a million YouTube videos that you can scroll through, but forget about it. You should be getting into the gym, specifically our gym.
Yeah, I think I touched on it briefly, but I think social is huge. I think it's been widely discussed, but it's probably too early to charter the effect on people's mental health the pandemic has had. And we're probably only really going to see the output of that in the next 18, 24, 36 months, depending on when, there's not a defined finish to the pandemic, but when everyone's back in the office and social distancing is reduced. So I think that's a huge part for us, that in all the people that have come into us since reopening, little to nobody have cited COVID as a concern. And if somebody hasn't joined, or nobody is saying, I don't feel safe, I don't feel that it's COVID risky. I think the vaccination is going very, very well in Ireland. People are very proud. I think we're 64, 65% fully vaccinated. The numbers are relatively stable. So my understanding and my feel is that people are ready, conservatively, but ready to get back to normal life. So when people come into us and they want to join, and they're kind of on the fence whether to join or not, our approach is just try it. Just try it. They have misconceptions on that it's only for super fit elite athletes, or it's only for 25-year-old fire breathers. Our attitude is just come in and try it. My father trains with us. He's 68. Probably didn't set foot in the gym for 65 years. And I use him on a sales call every day, saying, you can do it. There's no reason why somebody in their 20s or 30s or 40s can't.
So that's a great point also, that I'd like to bring up there, Peter, is like, who is CrossFit for in 2021?
Yeah, I'm not sure who said it. Might have been Pat Barber or one of the OGs, but it's bandied around. You know, CrossFit is for anybody, but it's not for everybody.
Mm,
Is that it? Everybody, not for, CrossFit is for anybody, but it's not for everybody.
yes.
Meaning that GPP, or general physical preparedness, whether you're 8 or 9, and our head coach Shane, his daughter is 8, she trains with us. My father's nearly 70, he trains with us. You know, the needs of elite athletes, and you and I, differ by degree, not kind. So we all need to be able to pick things up off the floor. We all need to be able to run for the bus or run for the football. We need to be able to lift up. You know these things. I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's for everybody. The query then is, do you see the value in what you're getting? Can you do? There's a 24-hour gym down the road for $20. This is a gym. That's a gym. What's the difference? So what I can sell over the phone, or we can talk on the phone. And the big goal is just to get people in, because we feel if you get in the door and you experience the class and the coaching and the camaraderie and the facility, that it makes sense. It makes sense straight away, and as you know from your experience in the CrossFit gyms, we don't have the capacity for 1,000 members. We don't have the capacity for 5,000 members and to charge whatever. We have to charge a premium to keep the lights on, the doors open, and the coach is paid. So we are very, very expensive, but we deliver on that value.
That leads me into another point here, is what are the biggest misconceptions of CrossFit? And if you'd like to elaborate, what are the biggest misconceptions as a person goes through an average day, week, and potentially months into CrossFit? So let's start on what's the biggest misconceptions that have been perpetuated with CrossFit?
Yeah. So the one that I hear regularly, as generally with female clients, is that they think it's a hyper aggressive elite level sport. So they may have seen a documentary on Netflix, or they may have seen a YouTube video, and they say, geez, I could never do that. Or laterally, I don't want to look like that. So maybe they see an Annie Thor's daughter, or they see a Tia Toomey, and they're saying, oh my God, I wouldn't like to have muscles like that. And I think it's a misconception that doing some exercise and lifting some weights equals elite professional athlete physique and performance.
So I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause you there, Peter, and we'll get back to the rest of this topic. But that hit on something for me. Is CrossFit doing affiliates, owners like yourself, a disservice by putting on the CrossFit Games, or do you see this another way?
I'd like to think I'm naturally optimistic, and I look for the good in things. I think it's good. We have a showcase event. We have, they're saying this is the fittest man, fittest woman on earth. They're doing things that 10 years ago are inconceivable. You run the mile in this amount of minutes, you snatch what guys are doing in the Olympics. So I believe in the methodology. I believe it works. What I say to people is, if you see Usain Bolt running the 100, it's not going to discourage you from going out for a jog. So I think there's a little bit of mixed messaging sometimes around elite performance CrossFit and class-based group training that we do. The same sports, but there's a huge difference between elite performance, bleeding the lines between safety and intensity, versus a business trying to help people move from sickness towards wellness.
And is that what you see as CrossFit in general? Is it a sport that you're trying to teach to people as they come in, or is this a fitness methodology?
Great question. I'm not sure I know the answer. I think it's both, because I think one of the key differentiators for me with CrossFit is that a lot of gyms and a lot of programs sell Body Beautiful. They sell six-pack abs. They sell 50 pounds weight loss in 8 weeks or whatever else. And that's okay to get somebody in the door. But what's a really nice thing about CrossFit is, because it is a sport akin to tennis or golf or judo, is that what you're doing is learning and practicing new skills. And the outputs of that, and sometimes the secondary and tertiary results, are improved body composition or improved strength or less niggles or less. So I do believe it's a sport around learning skills and performing new skills that can help you in the rest of your life. And at the same time, we follow a broad but specific methodology to achieve that. And what I do really like about CrossFit is it's ever evolving. It's not like we see a huge amount of clients come from F45. I think F45 is a really strong training methodology. Anything that gets people moving is brilliant. But I think sometimes they plateau on F45 and they're like, well, I've done every F45 workout, or it's no longer as challenging for me or stimulating. Whereas I've never, ever in almost 10 years of being involved in CrossFit heard somebody saying, I'm leaving because I'm not stimulated, or I'm not learning, or I'm not enjoying it. Because it's nonstop. Okay, you've got your handstand walk. Now let's handstand walk over an obstacle. Okay, you've got your handstand push-ups. Let's do our handstand push-ups on rings. We'll never do handstand push-ups on rings, but it's ever evolving constantly. And you see it in the games, the paddle boards, the swimming, and all that's saying to people is, we're training this fitness, not just to train fitness. We're training so that you can play with your kids, you can go swimming, you can do these really, really good things into, Kelly Sard, one of the early pioneers, talks about at 90 or 95, riding in his convertible with his fifth wife and doing a backflip over the fence, and that's, I like that the idea of longevity, about, Peter Attia talks about the Centurion Olympics. That's firmly in the back of my mind, staving off the effects of decrepitude, but enjoying your life.
I love those.
A complete tangent there.
No. I love those things. And we're going to circle back to the misconceptions, and specifically, let's get into what does an average day look like if someone walks into CrossFit 353?
Okay, so are you saying in terms of the class flow, or what a
for sure, because more of from the consumer's perspective. Obviously, your day is going to be a little bit different than the 1 hour of the day that the client comes in. So give me a rundown.
So if we take an existing client, this new facility here is in the middle of the city centre, so in the middle of the central business district. So space is very much at a premium. We've got maybe 2,200 square feet, which is not the biggest gym, but we've done a few things to try and maximize the space. Example being, we only use Stinger barbells. So we have 5-foot barbells. That's all we have. We don't have 7-foot Olympic barbells. We don't have changing rooms or showers. sorry, they're maxing out their lifts here. The audio's terrible. We don't have change rooms or showers. So what we have done is we've set up the place in as walk in, train, walk out. So when people comes in, bags into the lockers, sanitize hands, check in on your Wi-Fi. Class will start 5 or 10 minutes. We follow Kalipa's NC Fit programming here, which is again very focused on general physical preparedness. It's not about elite performance. A little bit of strength, a little bit of cardio, big focus on mobility and movement. And then we run those classes 50 minutes back to back in the morning. We have a morning break, lunchtime, and then in the evening. But yeah, so a client will come in, we'll do a warm up, we'll get them fired up, feeling warm and sweaty. Usually get into some sort of strength block. So it might be a squat, a press, a pull, some Olympic lifting. And then we do a WOD, which is the workout of the day, which is kind of your conditioning or your metabolic piece. And that might be an element of the lifting that we've done mixed with a row or a run or some burpees. And the nice thing, I guess, that because, as you know, because it changes every day, you're always kept guessing, you're learning new things, and then you're not hitting your chest 5 days a week.
But what if I want to hit my chest 5 days a week, Peter? Am I allowed to do that? No, but in all seriousness, you mentioned if this client has been here before. Can you maybe dive into what a first experience? I've never done CrossFit and I'm here shaking in my boots. What does that look like? And how can you convince me that this is what I should be doing?
Great question. I think straight away, giving somebody a taste of intensity without giving them rhabdo or leaving them vomiting on the floor is always a nice way to sell somebody. Secondly, there's an element of if they're in the class and they're doing the things that everyone else is doing around them, but safely and it's coached, I think that's a huge selling point as well. We put a huge emphasis on communication here. So, if I'm an effective communicator and you're an effective communicator, that makes people feel safe when they're anxious. So I'm going to look after you. I'm going to get you through this safely. We're in this together. I think the big thing as well is the fact that people come into a class-based scenario. They may have a Barry's boot camp or a soul cycle in their mind where it's just go, 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 go. You are just a number. Whereas you come to a CrossFit, you're not. The coach knows your name. They've got a little bit of background on you. They've done their homework. And especially if you're new, they're working with you for the majority of that class to get you through that class safely. So I think what's important is the coach makes them feel safe. They learn something new and are stimulated. So if you've never touched a barbell and you're snatching after day one, you're like, geez, there's an intrinsic achievement there. You feel good about yourself and you get a taste of intensity. I think the big thing is we talk about outsourcing your fitness. Outsource your fitness to us. The hour is done. The 50 minutes is done. You've done a great workout. You feel great and you don't even realize it. So I think very, very often is those three pieces.
So tying up these, the concept and the topic of misconceptions, can you tell me who CrossFit is not for? Because you had mentioned before it's for everybody, it's for anybody, but not everybody. So who is it not for?
I guess from experience, from our own experience, there's a very small minority of people. Maybe if you're playing a track and a field-based sport that you've specific training or specific training goals. I think if people have really, really specific goals, maybe around body composition, whether that's performance bodybuilding or the bikini competitors, or if you're really, really niche, I think CrossFit may not be for you. But CrossFit specializes in not specializing. So for the belly of the market, for anybody else, it works. We used to say anyone comes in the door, I want to achieve A, B, and C. We're like, yeah, this is the program for you. So somebody comes in, I want to achieve weight loss. This is the program for you. Someone says, I want to achieve weight gain. We're like, yeah, this is the program for you, because we can. I think from my own experiences with it, training and building training habits are the catalyst for making health changes in your own life. It's not going to do it for you, but building that repetitive endorphin giving habit will then influence you and encourage you to, okay, well, I've trained today, so instead of eating a candy bar, I'm going to eat an apple. Instead of staying up and watching Friends, I'm going to go to bed. And it's a slow and gradual process, but I just feel that training is the catalyst for making better decisions to impact your holistic health. And you're never there; it's always evolving and changing. But I feel if your cornerstone and your foundation is training, then it's easier to tinker with the other pieces because that's set. And I feel personally, it's the easiest one to lock in, especially in a PT or in a group setting, because there's an accountability there. You just show up, you show up, you show up, you show up, and it's done. Whereas I know if I was left to myself to train on my own, it's hard. I personally find it very, very difficult.
So you mentioned coming in, getting your workout in, that hour is done with. But there's also other aspects of your health that are integral for creating that change you talked about. How does CrossFit 353 support those other aspects?
Yes. So we have a couple of products. Um, we run a body composition consultancy. And what that's about is it's really about improving people's relationship with food, and in whatever that looks like. So giving people a greater understanding of what's good for them, what's not so good for them. Like the amount of misconceptions and misinformation out there. For example, we for years and years had Nocco or Fit Aid in the fridge, and we were selling it. And we had protein bars, and we had a realization. This is one of the things over lockdown that we redid our core values, and we said, we're not proud about making a dollar or an extra euro on these when they're not helping our clients, and they're not helping our clients. Maybe if you're an elite level athlete, there's a space for it. But we don't have elite, top level professional CrossFitters, so we have water in the fridge now. And yeah, we're sacrificing a few dollars every month for that, but we're more comfortable ourselves in doing that. So around the nutrition piece, we're trying to help people's understanding and give them the education to tick that box in terms of if they can lock their training in, then they can lock their nutrition in. They have two major pillars, and then we get into sleep and stress, and they're a little bit harder because they're granular and they're at the end of the day and they're a bit more personal. But again, the benefit of CrossFit or personal training is that you build a rapport and you build a connection and a safety with a member or a client or often a friend. And then, you can dip into those areas of their lives to really make transformational change.
How long do you have to do CrossFit in order for an average person to start seeing some change?
Are you talking physical change, like you at your body, what you're seeing body wise?
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's one of the hardest things that as a coach in my mind was that individuals only come in with one thought in mind of what change looks like. Can you elaborate on the different types of changes that an individual might see as they start doing CrossFit?
So I discuss it with our coaches here a lot. I would contend that if I found CrossFit in my teens, in my early teens, it would have changed the person I am or I was. I found CrossFit in my mid 20s, and it just gave me a growth mindset. So I had had a fixed mindset unbeknownst to myself. I'd made excuses. I had felt entitled. I had done things and blamed other people. Whereas when I got involved in CrossFit and I experienced the workouts and I experienced my effort beside your effort, it just gave me this incredible tunnel of clarity on life in terms of, it's just me versus me. I had this conversation with my wife last night around I'm the least competitive person you'll ever meet because I feel my self-esteem is at a place that I don't need to beat you. I just give my effort and I'm happy with that. So where I'm coming from is a lot of people join the gym to change their body composition, lose a few pounds, look good for summer. That's fine. And that's your motivation for taking the first step to changing your life. I'm not going to tell you that's right or wrong. But when you reach your body composition goals, it's not like a bell dings and you're then happy forever. This is a constant. They say the journey is the destination. So what we're really doing, and I think the really, really powerful message in CrossFit is it's around outlook and attitude, So, and that's really challenging for a coach. So, what I mean by that is, Sean, if you're in a class with us and it's 100 burpees for time and you do 50 burpees and you say finished, I'm like, oh no, we're in trouble here because there's a couple of things. Sean could come back in 6 months and say, I'm not getting the results that I wanted. And I'm saying, well, you're not putting in the effort that you designed, So, and then you've got that balance between they're paying clients, but then are you shortchanging them, and how hard do you go to hold them accountable, and what impact does their accountability have on the rest of the group? So, in a roundabout ways, a lot of people come in the door looking for an aesthetic goal, but what most people benefit from is a little bit of accountability around, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm not in comparison to somebody else. It's my effort, and if I can put in my effort, irrespective of what's happening around me, that's good enough. Do you remember Miko Salo? Do you remember the Finnish CrossFitter?
I actually have a tattoo of Miko on my back, of course.
Yeah, incredible. The TCU, I think, was his thing, but
Yeah.
he was known back in the day for doing these rowing workouts in his closet in the dark with no music, and he's saying, if I need people to shout at me to do my workouts, and he was famed saying, I'm never going on my back. He goes, animals die on their back, So I love that. I love that the mental toughness, the mental challenge. Who are you when nobody's watching? So you do Karen 150 wall balls for time. Nobody's standing there counting your reps. So maybe you do 130, 140. And I've done 140 before. I'm like, and then I've walked back and do my 10, So I love that mental challenge. Nobody's saying I'm right or wrong, but for me, I know I've gone off on one again, that's the big, big benefit for people. It gives them steel in their own mental fortitude.
Yeah, what it seems to me is that in a world where there's so much convenience, coziness, and comfort, CrossFit is a chosen path of most resistance.
Great way to put it. It's a great way to put it.
So,
And nobody else who competes with that.
yeah.
Just like if you're playing organized sport in a football field, absolutely. If you're still playing college basketball, absolutely. But very often people fall out of that in their 20s or for family or work, whatever reasons. You can still get that accountability in an organized setting. And I don't see any other fitness methodology or health methodology offering that. I just don't see it.
So that actually leads me into another great topic about the current state of CrossFit and CrossFit in a global sense. So we had spoken not too pretty recently about the changes that have gone through CrossFit over the last year or so with new ownership and management. And for those of you who are not in the know, the founder and original CEO of CrossFit, um, Greg Glassman, had made definitely some weird and distasteful comments, remarks during the pandemic, and a lot of global affiliates did not, and members. I mean, I had members who quit the gym because they didn't want to be associated with CrossFit because of what was going on. Without going too far down that road, where is CrossFit now in your mind in not only a world class and well known fitness methodology, but also pushing forward like this new age idea of inclusivity and, I guess, in some ways, meritocracy?
Yeah. So I think for the CrossFit buffs out there, we would have recognized recognition. We would have seen elements of that creeping in over the past 2 to 3 years, where the workout of the day was with an older gentleman in his living room with some bottles of water rather than an athlete in the gym, And I think they were flirting with the idea of making it more inclusive, but not really following through. Um, so I think when we spoke about it earlier about the messaging that, you know, the games are the showpiece. The games are the Olympic finals, for the top end of the sport, which is great. But like we said, nobody watches Naomi Osaka and then says, "Oh, I'm not playing. I couldn't compete with her, so I'm not doing that." I think there's a little bit of a misconception around the messaging that this is for everybody. This is for the moms and the dads and the kids. So I believe with the likes of Eric Rosa coming in, He's been very successful personally and professionally. Seems like a pretty clued in guy, and some of the people he's brought onto the board are very bright. I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about it. When Reebok left, and when Glassman didn't immediately step down after the comments, I was worried. But we've some good mentors involved in our own business, and they said just sit tight. Somebody's going to buy it, and they'll pump money into it, and they'll probably sell it. And I'm really excited. Under the leadership of Glassman, with some of the other senior members, I was nervous, about some of the messaging and some of the undertones at the top echelons of the organization. But it was doing so much so well that it was good for us, Whereas even the certification and the process of becoming an affiliate, I really feel CrossFit's in its infancy.
Wow.
And the early spike, the really early spike and crazy popularity, which is all built around kind of military intensity and rhabdo, puking. I feel that's evolved incredibly far. And like, if you look at what Khalipa has done on the back of it and what Bergeron's doing, and it's about the belly of the market. It's not about the elite. The elite is the poster on the wall, but that's to try and get everyone else into training. So I know it's a broad and kind of wandering answer, but I'm really excited, and I think CrossFit is going to go a place in the next 5 to 10 years.
Awesome. One last question about CrossFit 353 in general here is, what sets you guys apart, and why should somebody, after listening to this, pick up the phone and give you guys a call?
Yeah, brilliant. Let me just read you. We spoke recently about, we redeveloped a lot of our mission and values. And we put a lot of time into this during lockdown. And our mission at the moment is to spark lasting health improvements for our community through outstanding coaching and a genuine commitment to those under our care. We chase this mission while having as much fun as possible. So that's not something that sits on the wall here that we never reference. We probably reference it every day. Fun is a huge element of it. If you're not having fun, you're not going to stick with it. And what do we value? We value communicating effectively, meeting you where you're at, understanding where you want to go, and helping you get there. So we're not cookie cuttering and saying, Sean, you have to do this because we're telling you how to do this. An example of that, I know that's arbitrary, but an example being, very often in CrossFit, people would follow a strength cycle. And they'd say, Sean can back squat 100 pounds. You'll follow the super 353 strength cycle for 8 weeks, and now you can squat 200 pounds. Ergo, you are stronger and fitter and all the rest. You may have 3 bulged discs in your back, and you may not be able to sleep at night, but it is working. So an example is, we don't test. We don't do strength cycles, because I feel what you're valuing, we don't have a leaderboard. Because we write our scores on the board at the end of the day, but we don't have a POR board. Because what you're valuing there is a number, not necessarily the movement or the health. And like, we have the sickness wellness continuum on our TV screen at the front, because we're saying what we're trying to do every day is move you a little bit further away from sickness and towards health. So we have a genuine care. And we challenge that every day. We challenge the coaches. If you come in and you outsource your fitness to us, we'll look after you. And I'm not sure you always get that elsewhere.
Awesome, Peter. Thank you so much, phoning in from Dublin, Ireland. Is that right?
That's correct. You'll have to come over with the family.
Only when it's not raining torrentially. Okay, there, Peter. Yeah, exactly. Peter, thank you so much for your time, brother.
It's a pleasure, my man.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again to Peter for coming on to today's podcast and sharing his wealth of knowledge about CrossFit. Again, if you are into optimizing your health as an ageless athlete, we have tons of amazing guests from all over the world of fitness, wellness, optimization of health, and so much more. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast with a friend. We'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast.